Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Today's video is going to be a long one, so get yourselves cozy. This is going to be all the Agatha Christie books that I have read I'm going to review here. I have 5 books to review, and then I have a bonus book for like a true Agatha Christie fans that I absolutely love as well. The reason I'm making this video is because in my video that was like the best books of 2018, I spoke about all the books with in-depth reviews of what I felt of each book, and then at the end of the video I just said, and every Agatha Christie that I've read this year I loved as well. That was it. And people were like, well, what books were they? Like, I didn't say it all. It was like, you know, mystery within itself. So I'm just gonna do this to kind of like make it up to you for being such a little like, and then just every other book. I'm gonna go through every book that I've read from her. So I have 3 Miss Marples, I have 2 Poirots. A little bit about Agatha Christie, if you don't know, is that she does murder mysteries. She was an English author, very critically acclaimed. I absolutely adore her. I think her characters are so memorable. I think the plots of the murder mysteries are so intricate. They are so well done, but then they also have humour within it, because obviously there is a murder and you get like the sorrow of the family, but then there's great humour and there's great life lessons, I feel, as well within Agatha Christie's work. My personal favourite is Miss Marple. So she had a detective which is called Miss Marple, who she's not really a detective. She's a little old lady who, wherever she goes, murder happens. She's like a bloody cadaver dog. And then she doesn't have any real detective skills, but she has like intuition, and she's very quick-witted and she's very smart, and she can extract information out of people because they think she's like a silly old woman, and she's always kind of looked down upon. People don't realise her true potential, and then she like solves a massive crime and outsmarts the police. Love her. Miss Agatha Christie also did another detective person which was called Hercule Poirot, who I love as well, and Hercule Poirot is a detective. He is a famous Belgian detective, and he gets called to different places and murders happen. He also has a really good friend called Agnes Oliver, Miss Oliver she's referred to, and whenever she's somewhere and a murder happens, these people, she phones her good old friend Hercule and he comes over to her. So those are the 2 like detective people that I've read. She did standalone books, she did different series. I haven't read any of that stuff at all, so I can only really talk about Miss Marple and Hercule Poirot. So I'm just going to get straight into it. First up, I'm going to do my Miss Marple books. So I have The Body in the Library. This is about a couple called the Bantrys who live in this big house, and one day they're in bed. The maid comes into their bedroom and says, "There's a dead body in the library." And Miss Bantry's like, "What on earth are you talking about, you silly girl?" and wakes her husband and tells him what the maid has just said. And he's like, "Oh, the maid's gone mad, like she doesn't know what she's talking about." But lo and behold, there is a dead, glamorous looking woman sprawled across the library floor, dead. So Miss Bantry gets on the phone to her good old friend Miss Marple, who lives in the nearby village, and she says, "Miss Marple, can you," or Jane, because she's Jane Marple, "Jane, can you come and see if this girl is a girl from the village, because we have no idea who this dead girl in our library is. Please can you tell us?" So that's how Miss Marple becomes involved in this plot. So she goes there and says this girl is not from the village, and this is really an exploration as to who the girl is. So you have to work out first who she is, because she's a complete mystery. So then Miss Bantry and Miss Marple literally go on like a murder holiday. They go on holiday to where they think the girl was working as a dancer. So they go off on this kind of jolly to this like hotel, and they're like talking to people and interrogating people themselves, and then they solve the mystery because they work out who she is and then work back from that. Really interesting and really good, because there's so many twists and turns. Like you won't know who is the killer and who did it, and obviously the most obvious person is not the murderer, Miss Marple, but there's a lot of obvious people within this. There's a lot of men that you're like, oh, maybe it's that, but it's not. It's very good. Really like that one. The next 2 are kind of entwined with one another because they have the same set of characters. So first up, you're going to want to read A Caribbean Mystery. Miss Marple's nephew plays for her to go over to the Caribbean. So it starts and she's in a Caribbean hotel, she's on holiday, she's having a great time, she's there by herself. And then this man comes and sits with her, and he starts telling her this very odd story that I have a picture of a murderer in my wallet. And she's like, oh, do you? It's a bit odd, isn't it? And he's about to show her the picture of a murderer that he has in his wallet. And then he looks around at the other guests and he looks shocked, as if he has seen the person in the picture. And he puts the picture back and he never shows her the picture of the murderer. He then ends up dead. So then she forms like an alliance with this man called Mr. Raphael, who is also on holiday there. He is elderly and he's very sick, he's very ill. And so him and her like kind of become friends, but Mr. Raphael is so rude to like Miss Marple throughout it, but they do become friends, and then they both decide to work out who the murderer is, because it's one of the guests. So through this you learn out all the different guests, all their names, their occupations, a little bit about their lives, who they're on holiday with. So good, like absolutely adored this one. And I loved Miss Marple, because Miss Marple's so like sweet and lovely with Mr. Raphael. It was like sweet and sour because she's so lovely, and then Mr. Raphael is like so snappy and nasty, and I liked them together though because they did form such like a lovely friendship. So their friendship is in this, and they've only just met in this, and that's it. Years pass and Nemesis happens. So in this, Miss Marple gets a letter from Mr. Raphael, who she met in a Caribbean mystery but never met again. So read this one first and then realise that they never meet after this. And then in Nemesis, Mr. Raphael has died, but before he died he wrote her this letter. So when she gets the letter, he's dead. And he says, do you remember when we went on that Caribbean holiday? I mean, it's pretty memorable, there was a murder there. Yeah, I remember that. Well, I think you're really good at solving crimes. I don't know what it is about you, but you're really good at solving crimes. I've got a crime for you. Almost like a bit of homework. And obviously like he's dead, so she has to do it. And he says, there was a crime that happened many years ago. I want you to go back and see if the person who is in prison for that crime is in prison because he should be, or if it's someone else. I want you to re-look at an old crime. So it's different from Miss Marple's because there's not necessarily like as soon as she arrives there's a murder. She's looking at a cold case that's already been solved, but seeing if that person did do it. And then the person that's in prison, she works out that person's connection to Mr. Raphael. Why is he so interested in whether this man is guilty or innocent? And Mr. Raphael has died now. Why does it mean so much to him? So Mr. Raphael pays for her to go on a coach trip. She goes on this coach trip and then looks at this cold case, and then murder ensues. Really loved this. I thought this was such a good one as well. Really did enjoy Nemesis. So those are all my Miss Marples that I have read. I have also read The Mirror Crack from Side to Side, but it was so long ago I don't remember it. Next we're going to get on to Hercule Poirot, the Belgian detective. So I read first One to Buckle My Shoe, Poirot. And Poirot goes to the dentist and then something happens there. This isn't like my favourite Agatha Christie. I still loved it. I still thought it was really interesting, really intelligent, but I didn't think the characters were as memorable as like Agatha's normal stuff. So I did enjoy this, but I don't really remember a great deal of it. There's not a character that really steps out to me. And also it's all about kind of a bigger conspiracy, whereas a lot of them it's jealousy or rage or greed that causes someone to kill someone. Whereas this is like a bigger conspiracy thing, but I did still like this. My favourite Agatha Christie book of all time is this one. This is Halloween Party, and this is Miss Oliver, who's Hercule Poirot's good friend. She is at a Halloween party. It's a children's party, the children are all messing around, and then a little girl called Joyce says, I once saw a murder, but I didn't know it was a murder. And a little bit about Miss Oliver, she writes crime stories, some murder mysteries, she writes herself. So that's why the little girl tells her about this, because, you know, we've got this great famous crime writer in the house. This little girl decides to tell her that she once saw a murder, but she doesn't say anything about the murder because the adults are so cruel to her. They all start being like, shut up, Joyce! Joyce doesn't know what she's saying. Oh, whatever. Joyce, they're so rude to this poor little girl. So she doesn't tell them. She's like, I'm not going to tell you what it is now because you're all being so nasty to me. And then good old Joyce ends up dead. The death of Joyce, who she is a child. She's kind of like 13 years old. So I was a bit shocked at that because the rest of them are like adults that get killed. But anyway, so Joyce ends up dead. And then Miss Oliver phones her friend Hercule Poirot and says, Poirot, I'm so distressed, please can you come here, there's been a murder. And he goes, of course, I'll come. So then he goes to where The murder's taken place and Miss Oliver is, and Miss Oliver tells him what's happened. And he has to kind of find out, did she witness a murder? And what she said was, I once witnessed a murder, but I was so young I didn't know it was a murder. What on earth is that? Like, I'd be like, game over. But he's like, oh, I had to work out what for a younger child maybe they wouldn't realise. How did she see this? And so he looks back at all the other cases of people that have been murdered in this tiny village, it's quite a few, and the circumstances to find out if it's one of these murders that she saw or is it a different murder. Within this as well, there are so many memorable characters, and there's a gardener. There's this gorgeous garden. It's like, it's utopia, stunning, and no one goes to the gardener. No one goes to the garden if they don't like the gardener, and they don't like really the garden because they consider it like bad luck. And he is described, the gardener, as being very beautiful, and Hercule Poirot is very much caught off guard by this man because he's so charming, he's so beautiful, but there's something odd about him, and there's so many memorable characters within this, and I think that's why I absolutely adore it. This is my favourite Agatha Christie. It's just absolutely stunning. So that is all the Agatha Christie books that I have read. I own loads. I'm going to do a TBR video in the future of the Agatha Christie books that I read, because I have about 6 of them that I have to read, so I will put that up on the channel soon. Now the bonus book is for people who really do love Agatha Christie's work, and it's this. This is Agatha Christie's Secret Notebooks by John Curran, and this is exactly what it is. It's Agatha Christie's notebooks. So these are all, like, the writing is her notebooks to do with each story. So she was really sporadic in how she designed her stories. So you would think with such intricate plot lines, so she'd have everything down like beginning, plot, end, everything like that. But she didn't. She'd have like something scrawled in one notebook, something scrawled over here, and then she would sit at her typewriter and just type it all out, which to me is absolutely fascinating because there's so many different characters and so many plot lines to like keep a hold of, that she did it like so skillfully. So this is just them compiled together. So you'll have something like, say, Halloween party, and all her different notes for Halloween party. They're really sporadic. One thing I find so interesting is that some of the books, if you've read them, they have different murderers in her original notes. So she was going down a different plot line and obviously thought it didn't work, and so swapped it out for someone else, which I find so fascinating. I love this. There is some screenshots of her original, her original writing, but you really can't work out what it is because it's almost like shapes, like you can't really work out what her handwriting is. So I'm glad that he printed it in here, and also he's like a massive fan, right? So if you're a fan of Agatha Christie, this is just a fan book of John being like, she did this amazingly, this is how much I love her. But he does critique her in some of her work, like her later work. He says it kind of lost a little bit of the intricacies of the stories than say this book, but this book she wrote years before is amazing, stunning. So it's like a critical fan, but still at heart a huge fan. I thought this was so interestingly done, and also he does talk a little bit about the success of some of the books and how well they did, and he goes into a lot of her books are based on nursery rhymes. So like 1, 2, buckle my shoe is based on a nursery rhyme, and there's loads of other ones like that, and he goes into that, like, and then there were none is a nursery rhyme. So I really liked that bit of it. Also in this is 2 unpublished Poirot stories, and I loved the 2 Poirot short stories that were in this. One of them I really loved, and the reason it wasn't published is she tried to get it published, but it was a bit too political for the time she was bringing it out. And it is Hercule Poirot gets a call from someone who says, my son is in prison for killing a Nazi leader. And Hercule Poirot's okay, but my son did not kill the Nazi leader. He was at the rally when this Nazi leader was shot, but I know my son did not shoot this leader. Why didn't he shoot him? Because my son's a Nazi. What? Like, that one's really interesting as well, and there's so many like beautiful portrayals about like the evilness of Nazis and the brutality of war within that one as well, because Hercule Poirot is trying to prove the innocence of someone who essentially is a Nazi. As a young boy, he hasn't really done anything, but he's very heavily influenced by them, and he's trying to prove his innocence, and oh, it's so good. Like, that one is really good, and I think it's such a shame that people didn't publish that, because the time she wanted it published, they were like, oh no, it's too soon, we can't publish it. But it's so poignant about war, I think it should have been published. Love this, really do. If you're an Agatha Christie fan, then you need to get this. Also, the inside pages are her journals. Just there's her journals, which I think was a really nice touch. Oh, a really nice touch to like put within it. And that is it. That is my Agatha Christie books. I hope this made up for me just at the best of the books of the year being like, and Agatha Christie. I've done a full video on her books now, and every book that I read in the future, I'm going to do an individual book review on that book. I would definitely recommend Agatha Christie. Absolutely love her, and start wherever you want. Start with whatever book that you want, whatever plotline most speaks to you, start with that. Love it. So this is the end of the video. I will see you again soon for another video, and thank you for watching. Also, leave down below your favourite Agatha Christie novel. Okay, bye.